Ominously, Xi Jinping, the aggressive Chinese ruler, this month told his military it has to be ready for war at any second. China's generals and admirals did not need to be told. They have long been making their military diplomacy the diplomacy of the country. As a consequence, China is fast becoming a military state. Therefore, at any second Washington should be prepared to defend the island as Beijing's air provocations signal that China is about to provoke a crisis. Chinese leaders often test new White House occupants with military provocations in their peripheral waters. For instance, in April 2001, a Chinese jet flew dangerously close to an American Navy EP-3, an unarmed reconnaissance plane, causing a fatal collision over the South China Sea. Starting in March 2009, Chinese vessels harassed two unarmed American Navy reconnaissance vessels, the Impeccable and the Victorious, in the South China and Yellow Seas. One of those incidents, the interference with the Impeccable in March, was so serious that it constituted an attack on the United States, in other words, an act of war. In both sets of incidents, Washington's reaction was disappointing, thereby encouraging Beijing to continue its bellicose ways. Chinese leaders did not test President Trump during his term, perhaps because they were afraid of his unpredictability. Xi looks like he is going after Biden, as it is clear Chinese leaders think, or at least thought, they could bully the new American president. How do we know that? Derisive public comments of Dai Dongsheng, the now notorious Renmin University professor, were recorded last November and publicly circulated around China. Essentially, Dai bragged that China would be able to determine outcomes in Washington if Trump were not re-elected. Japanese leaders had been worried about Trump's departure. Yasuhide Nakayama, the Japanese defense minister, advised Biden last month that Taiwan should be a red line for America. Japanese officials know a thing or two about what militaristic regimes can do, and they now see in China dangerous trends reminiscent of Imperial Japan in the 1930s, when uniformed officers took over the government in Tokyo. Biden's Taiwan policy, however, is shaping up to be resolute. In a move that surprised observers, his transition team invited Taiwan's top representative in Washington, Bi-khim Hsiao, to the inauguration. Her presence ended 4 decades of America's shunning of Taiwan at the ceremony. The move continued the Trump administration's outreach to Taipei. With Washington's new engagement of Taiwan, it appears China no longer wields a veto over American policy toward the island. Beijing, with its shows of air power, has now made its displeasure known. At the moment, most every observer thinks Xi is just huffing and puffing over Taiwan, yet regimes that say they want war almost always get themselves into one.